If you think Declan Rice is clear of Frenkie de Jong, you've fallen for the lie we keep telling about Frenkie de Jong. The lie that power equals progress, that running harder matters more than thinking faster.
But he was everywhere.
But when you actually watch him, when you really understand what he does, it feels like everyone has been watching through the wrong lens. Because while Rice wins duels, Frenkie wins time. While others chase the ball, he manipulates space. He doesn't dominate through power. He dictates through intelligence. It's not loud and it's not viral, but it is brilliant. Really, it is. They say Rice is world class, Frenkie's washed. But football was never meant to be brute force. It was meant to be beautiful control. And no one in the modern game understands that better than Frenkie. The world stopped watching, but he never stopped mastering it. While everyone watched Declan Rice bulldoze through midfields, Frenkie de Jong quietly became the most misunderstood genius in football. And despite everything, he might still be the most advanced midfielder in Europe. Today, we're breaking down the lies and uncovering cold facts about why Frenkie de Jong might still be the future of midfield football. So stay tuned until the end, because the last lie will shock you most. Some players lose form. Frenkie de Jong lost the narrative. There was a time, not long ago, when every touch Frenkie took was an education. He wasn't loud. He was fluid intelligence. Then came the era of visibility, where clips, stats, and algorithms dominated. And suddenly, the world stopped watching football. It started watching moments. That's when Declan Rice fit the feed with power, tackles, shouts, and 6-second football. Frenkie didn't. His brilliance lives in between. He doesn't break lines with force. He bends them with geometry. The hype shifted. Rice became the poster boy for modern midfield, a symbol of dominance, intensity, and presence, while Frenkie became known as quiet, technical, and too elegant for chaos. He was labeled as inconsistent and soft. When Rice joined Arsenal, his social media engagement rocketed by 340% within 6 months, driven by Premier League visibility and media narratives framing him as the engine of modern football. Frenkie, meanwhile, averaged less than 1/10 of that visibility, despite 94% passing accuracy and league-high ball progression metrics under Xavi. But here's what nobody noticed. While the noise grew around Rice, Frenkie wasn't fading. He was evolving.
Frenkie de Jong with the curler! Frenkie de Jong!
Inside the Barcelona system, his role deepened, his rhythm refined. He was no longer just a carrier, but the tempo itself. The difference was that he stopped trying to prove himself to Twitter and started proving himself to time. Because while hype trends fade, systems remember intelligence. And Frenkie de Jong, for all the memes, injuries, and lies, still plays like football is a language only a few ever learned to read. They say that every player fights two opponents, one on the pitch and one in public opinion. For Frenkie de Jong, the second battle has been brutal. So let's talk about the lies we keep telling about Frenkie de Jong. Lie number 1, Frenkie is washed. It's the easiest story to repeat, that he's injured again, he's inconsistent. But it's also the most stupid and laziest. Because when Frenkie plays, Barcelona transforms. And here's how. Under Xavi, Barca averaged 8.7 more progressive carries per match when he started. Possession control rose by 12%, built up accuracy by 15%. Even Xavi admitted it, saying he's the one player we can't replace. Ronald Koeman once said he's the only player who can carry the ball from defense to attack without losing control. And Erik ten Hag, his Ajax mentor, called him a player with eyes in his boots. Yes, he missed games, but when he played, he was still the rhythm section of the team. Shockingly, he had a 97% pass accuracy versus Dortmund, the highest in a Champions League knockout match last season. StatsBomb's 2024 data shows that Frenkie de Jong ranked in the top 2% of midfielders across Europe's top 5 leagues for both progressive carries and passes completed under pressure. That's not washed. That's mastery under pressure. Lie number 2. Rice is more complete. Well, we really need to clarify this lie because it's personal. The comparison sounds fair until you define complete. Declan Rice is power, coverage, recovery. Frenkie de Jong is positioning, progression, and perception. Rice wins space. Frenkie uses it. Rice carries with force. Frenkie carries through pressure. In Flick's tactical setup, Frenkie often drops between the center backs during build-up, transforming Barcelona's shape into a temporary back three. This gives him time and angles to dictate tempo, to bait the press and break it. Rice, by contrast, stays higher to shield space rather than manipulate it. Here's what's interesting. Frenkie de Jong ranks among Europe's top 5 midfielders for progressive carries per 90 and sits comfortably within La Liga's top 3 for progressive passes under pressure. He averages 7.4 progressive passes and 8.1 carries per 90 minutes, nearly double Declan Rice's progression numbers in open play, a reflection of his rare balance between calm precision and relentless forward intent. So, who's more complete? The destroyer of chaos or the designer of control? Because in modern football, completeness isn't about power. It's about positional brain. It's true when we say that Frenkie plays chess while others play checkers. But if that wasn't enough, there's one narrative that nearly broke his public image. And that's lie number 3. He didn't live up to the hype. People forget, Frenkie left Ajax total football paradise at 22, stepping into a Barcelona rebuilding from an identity crisis. He didn't inherit Pep's Barca. He inherited its ruins. Through Koeman, Setien, and Xavi, each with shifting philosophies, Frenkie adapted, evolving from a free-flowing conductor into a deeper, more defensive orchestrator. His game became subtle, minimalistic, and grown. Not less brilliant, just less viral-worthy. Because what fans call quiet, managers call irreplaceable. In many ways, Frenkie's journey mirrors Busquets', misunderstood early on, mocked for simplicity, then eventually recognized as a genius. Pirlo once said, "Simplicity is the hardest thing to achieve." Frenkie has reached that level. Lie number 4. He stayed for the money. This might be the cruelest one. For 2 years, media outlets painted him as a financial burden, claiming he earned record-breaking wages and refused to leave. But, as Frenkie revealed recently, those reports were pure lies. I've seen so many false things about my salary and situation. They were not true, and it made me angry. Frenkie de Jong, 2024. He wasn't clinging to contracts. He was defending the truth. He rejected Manchester United, Chelsea, and others because he wanted Barcelona. Because despite the noise, this club wasn't just his employer. It was his dream. That commitment has now been formalized, a contract extension until 2029. He deferred wages during COVID and publicly stated, "I want to stay at Barcelona for many years." Because beneath the lies, Frenkie de Jong remains what he always was, a master of time, tempo, and truth. They said he disappeared, but maybe he just stopped shouting and started conducting. This is the part where the story slows down, not to defend Frenkie de Jong, but to remember who he actually is. A player built not for TikTok moments, but for the poetry between them. He doesn't destroy games. Instead, he redesigns them. Watch any replay from Ajax's 2018-19 fairy tale run. That fearless glide through Madrid's midfield. The calm pirouette under pressure. The pass that unlocks the pitch itself. That wasn't hype. That was a masterclass in spatial intelligence. He's not the loudest, but when he plays, Barcelona hums differently. Only Rodri and Frenkie averaged over 8 progressive carries plus 90% pass accuracy per game in Europe's top 5 leagues. And remember versus Napoli in the 2024 UCL quarterfinal? He completed 14 progressive carries and wasn't dispossessed once. That's pretty impressive. So let's speak the truth. Frenkie is not trying to be seen. He's trying to make football feel effortless again. This is where we smash those lies and meet the truth. The debate, Frenkie de Jong or Declan Rice. It's not about who's better, it's about what you want your midfield to be. Rice dominates the headlines, Frenkie dominates the rhythm. When it comes to press resistance, Frenkie's elite. The kind of player who can take the ball into impossible spaces, turn under pressure and still keep possession alive. Rice is good in that area, but his strength lies elsewhere. In ball progression, Frenkie is world-class. He glides forward, connects defense to attack, and makes his team breathe through his movement. Rice, by contrast, is more about solidity rather than fluidity. Now physically, it flips. Rice is the powerhouse, commanding duels and covering ground, while Frenkie relies more on positioning and timing. So, when we say Rice is the wall, Frenkie is the architect. What we mean is that while Rice destroys attackers, Frenkie builds from nothing. One wins the ball, the other moves it. In a system built for chaos, Rice is perfect. In a system built for control, Frenkie is irreplaceable. That's not opinion. That's the truth in plain words. Even by the numbers, Frenkie remains in Europe's top percentile for line-breaking carries, completed passes under pressure, and recovery to transition sequences. He doesn't need highlight reels to prove it. The data already does. So when people say Rice is more complete, the truth is simple. Completeness depends on what game you're playing. You don't replace Frenkie with Rice. You build your team differently. We downplay Frenkie de Jong because he doesn't shout his brilliance. He doesn't chase numbers. He controls the ones that matter. Since 2022, Frenkie has maintained over 90% pass accuracy under pressure, higher than any midfielder in La Liga. While others dominate the scoreboard, Frenkie dominates the space between players, the heartbeat between passes, and that kind of genius doesn't trend easily. Watch that moment against Villarreal. 4 men press him, and somehow he still escapes with a feint and a glide. He's calm before the storm, and often the reason the storm never comes. Maybe that's why so many underestimate him, because the truly great ones don't need chaos to prove control. We are witnessing the best version of Frenkie de Jong since his Ajax days. The paradox? Only in his 6th season has Barcelona finally unlocked the player who was brought in to replace Sergio Busquets. And all it took was the right coach. For Frenkie and the entire team, Hansi Flick became that missing chapter. He didn't reinvent Frenkie, he freed him. He built a system that finally spoke Frenkie's language: rhythm, control, and trust.
Especial. Y queremos
Today, de Jong isn't just fitting into Barca's midfield, he's redefining it. Hansi Flick turned him from a misunderstood talent into one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. A player now being compared not just to Busquets, but to Pirlo. When De Jong first arrived in 2019, he was seen as the next big thing. Paris Saint-Germain wanted him. Barca fought to sign him. And expectations were sky high. But as long as Busquets was healthy, Frenkie had to adapt, playing box to box, learning from the shadows. It wasn't until Busquets left and Flick arrived that the scene changed. Under Flick, Frenkie found structure and freedom and discipline without losing creativity. The Dutchman was trusted, protected, and challenged all at once. And when the boos came, Flick stood tall. I need him. The team needs him. The turning point came in the Champions League against Dortmund. 97% passing accuracy, total composure, and the kind of performance that silences critics without saying a word. The truth is, Frenkie didn't change who he was. The club finally changed around him. Now, his partnership with Pedri defines Barcelona's new era. Together, they control tempo, possession, and space with surgical precision. Frenkie runs the geometry of modern football, and suddenly, the world is noticing what the quiet ones were always saying. He was never gone. You just weren't watching closely enough. So why did we ever doubt him? Maybe because football often mistakes silence for absence. A deep-lying maestro with the precision of a surgeon and the courage of a captain. He doesn't dominate matches by noise or numbers. He does it by design. As he enters his prime, 28 years old, he's not chasing hype. He's dictating it, one measured touch at a time. So when you hear debates about complete midfielders, remember this. Rice may command chaos. Frenkie commands the game itself. And that's a difference only football purists truly understand. And if you made it this far, you're not just a fan. You're a football mind. Smash that like button if you respect football IQ over football edits. So the next time you watch him, mute the commentary. Just watch how everything bends towards him, like gravity rediscovered. That's it for now, but we'd love your comments below.